For upcoming events and places to visit in Surry County, watch Surry on the Go.
Welcome to a special edition of What's Up Surry County. I'm standing in the renovated basement of the historic courthouse in Dobson, which is the current headquarters of the Substance Abuse Recovery Office. On this edition of What's Up Surry County, we'll discuss some very heavy topics affecting our children in Surry County schools and Mount Airy City schools with the respective superintendents, Dr. Kim Morrison and Dr. Travis Reeves. Those topics include self-harm, adverse childhood experiences, and the dangerous effects of social media, to name a few. And on a much brighter side, we'll discuss the podcast club at Mount Airy City Schools with Dr. Kim Morrison. We have all that and more on this episode of What's Up Surry County. Let's take a listen to the leaders of our youth speaking candidly and from the heart about self-harm.
We are trying to focus on teaching students how to be successful once they leave us. And in the meantime, there's a lot of academics they've got to learn. Math, science, workforce development, internships. They've got to be involved in all of these things. But we find out through surveys where students self-report that they might be doing some things that are harmful to themselves. Mm-hmm. They might be cutting themselves in middle school. They might be doing things even mentally where they compare themselves to others, and it's doing a lot of self-harm in that situation. So our responsibility is to let families know about that and to say, we found out through a survey that your child may be doing something with self-harm. Sometimes their friend will tell us, right. Or if we see anything physically, we're not experts with mental health support.
Right.
Schools are not the place where you get mental health support.
Right.
But they're here a lot of the day. So we really want to make sure that if we see anything that would be like that we get it to the families. We also have wraparound services that we can call, a day mark, a treatment center. We can refer families to those pieces to say, there may be something going on here with your child and it's out of the expertise of the schools. How can we help?
Well, obviously self-harm is something that we're all concerned about. When a student may cut themselves or do something to harm themselves, I think parents need to ask why, need to help understand, is there an adverse childhood experience that maybe they don't know about? Is there something has happened at school that maybe they don't know about? And on the converse, as an educator, we want to know why too. And I think that's what's important, why the relationship between parents and schools are so important to take care of our students, because as we think about everything that's happening right now, today, and we look at all the post-COVID impact, what I have seen is this, really families have been disrupted. Right. The nuclear family has been impacted maybe by something either directly or indirectly related to our schedules being off, or maybe someone lost a job, or maybe someone passed away in our family based on COVID, or maybe based on a drug overdose, or based on some other situation that really we can't explain and understand, but that child is having that adverse childhood experience to the point where maybe they're blaming themselves, or maybe they're blaming others. And so we really have to try to understand why. And one thing in our school system that we've done is tried to help our teachers and our employees understand what are ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, and why is that so important for us to understand, and what questions should we ask, what's appropriate to ask, because many don't know. And so it's just important to try to understand these issues, ask questions, and really know our youth. And I guess I stress this also, what are students doing on social media? Right. Parents need to know sites they're visiting, what's on their phones, where are they going, where are they spending their time. It shouldn't be an invasion of privacy. It's just our parents need to be involved in their students' lives, because that's a whole nother life outside of the face-to-face that is a big part of students, and it has a huge impact on their confidence or lack of confidence. And there's so many things happening in this cyber world for adults and for students. And so we've got to know what's happening with our kids.
And Dr. Reeves of Surry County Schools explains how our teachers train to be more than just educators.
ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and I think there's about 10 experiences listed in the ACEs chart. And I believe if you've had 2 or more of those adverse childhood experiences, it kind of ratchets up some of the potential issues that students may have. And then if you've had 3 or more, 4 or more, 5 or more. And so as a school system, we've spent some time training our staff members on ACEs, what those adverse childhood experiences may be, what are the look-fors and ask-fors in a classroom, or maybe on a sports team, maybe in a club. Because you might not be the classroom teacher, you might be the coach. And so you may not see this kid until 3:30 or 4 o'clock after school. So what are some things that may exhibit themselves in a different venue, in a different setting? And so I just think, again, educators are being asked to do a lot.
Right.
It's one thing to teach math and English and science and social studies from 8 to 3. But what about after school? Very often students are with us to 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And so our teachers have to be experts in a lot of things, and we've worked hard to train them on ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and knowing what to look for, knowing what to ask for, and then if there is an issue, what are the resources we have at the school level, at the district level, that can potentially help that student connect, or that family connect to other resources to help them through this situation.
And Dr. Kim Morrison of Mount Airy City Schools is vigilant about the well-being of her students and talks about the anonymous tip line.
So we have an anonymous tip line that we share on our website. We share it in social media. We make sure students see it on their platform, which they have on their iPads. We are K-12 iPads for every child, and it'll pop up on there so that students can just click it. And in fact, we have community members that might click it and say something like, we know that there's a child who doesn't have lunch money. You know, I mean, we've had things like that come in. Or maybe serious, you know, we think this child is doing self-harm. Could you check on them? So for us, we just feel like if they don't feel comfortable telling someone at the school, they can go onto this anonymous tip line. Now, a lot of times they'll leave their name and their email because they do want us to follow up. But if they don't want to, they don't have to. And so that gives them that option. We had a lot of anonymous tips come in during COVID because 20% of our population started at home. We came back to school face-to-face in August of 2020. We were the first district in the state to do that. So we had 80% of our students in our buildings. So that helped, but all of a sudden we got these anonymous tips coming in from students who were at home. We're not being able to be watched. So by Christmas, we got even 10% of those into our building, where we had 90% of our students showing up every single day. So anything we can do to prevent something from happening, or to make sure people have the tools, or to connect them with the services, we just think that anonymous tip line may help us.
High on the list of concerning topics is opioids. Here are the thoughts of Dr. Travis Reeves on that topic.
You know, I think I saw a statistic the other day about opioid deaths in Surry County. It's in the top 5 of the state. And in our schools, we're a microcosm of the macro. Whatever happens at the county level is going to happen to our students, and maybe even more so, because if it happens to one family, that could be 2 children, 3 children, 4 children in 4 different schools, impacting multiple people. So absolutely, the nuclear family is so important, and when we see disruptions, it definitely impacts our schools, impacts our students, and students are with us 7.5 hours, 8 hours a day. Right. And so they're living a big portion of their life at school. And so we've certainly seen issues and situations where self-harm has exhibited itself, and it's important that our counselors and social workers and teachers know how to address those issues.
Also, here's some advice for parents and students about social media.
Social media can be good in so many ways, and then there's bad.
Right.
And I'm not here to weigh good and bad. I know we often see bad, and we see it exhibited in multiple ways. And there's so many apps and so many different mediums that students can use, and it's hard for parents to keep up with it. It's hard for me to keep up with it because what's popular today is not going to be popular tomorrow. I just know parents, we need parents to be involved in what's happening in the kids' life, and just like they might be involved on the face-to-face side, that cyber world side is just as important, because it's easy for people to sit behind the screen and say things and do things. I encourage parents to really get involved and ask their students questions, know where they're spending their time, and really have that strong, close-knit relationship with their students at home.
And lastly, on a much lighter note, many of us enjoy podcasts, and so do the students at Mount Airy High School, so they created their own podcast. To share more with you about this project is Dr. Kim Morrison.
Sure. So we're pretty excited to have like our own little television studio and the students doing a podcast. Maybe they could be mentored by you guys or folks like this. They take interesting announcements and stories, and weekly they do interviews, and they get that podcast out to the whole population here. While COVID was going on, I had the opportunity to interview a lot of superintendents from around the nation. Just naturally, I'm on a national board, and I was able to get superintendents in Texas, the superintendent in Washington from the Department of Education, our state superintendent, and I put it together in a white paper called Voices of Courage. So our students and some alumni are doing this whole series on what did it take to really lead through a crisis? And what does that Voices of Courage look like? And there's some pretty amazing trends that have come out now. We've presented in Texas and in a couple of different venues. We were at AASA not too long ago, the National Superintendents Organization, and our students are pretty excited to be able to interview these people zooming in kind of from all over the nation. So not only are they doing something local for their own school system, they're also talking to all these people like the epidemiologists from Duke University, and they're talking about how we led together through COVID and how we were voices of courage together. So that's pretty exciting for me, because I just felt like these stories of courage. There was a child who stood up at a board meeting and said he wanted to continue to wear the masks because his grandmother had passed away, and he was heckled at the meeting. And you have to talk to people about how do you have these political conversations, and remember that our mission is to take care of children and to not get into these political back and forth with folks, regardless of where you are on the issue. And it just takes a voice of courage to find middle ground and keep the students at the forefront and education moving forward.
Well, that's all for this special edition of What's Up Surry County. Before the conclusion of this episode, I'd like to share with you two things. We've done several programs with Surry County Health and Nutrition Center on the topic of self-harm involving children. Please be sure to watch those episodes on our channel and on our app. The way you can download our app is go to Roku, Fire, Apple TV, and smartphones and tablets, and type in Surry on the Go, all lowercase, all one word with no spaces, to make sure you get it downloaded properly. And you can also watch us on Surry Communications Cable Channel 7. Thank you for joining us, and take care of your kids.